Hello, I'm Mikhail Henning. Today we're going to talk about the fifth of the 7 quality tools of Lean Six Sigma, the scatter plot, otherwise known as a scatter diagram. Now let me go a little bit and say that there is some controversy behind who actually created the scatter plot or scatter diagram. And a lot of the readings that you'll find, it contributed to a John Herschel is the creator of the scatter plot or scatter diagram. And I can test that that's not actually accurate. It was actually Rene Descartes who died 100 years before Herschel did, and that he's the one who actually created the scatter plot or scatter diagram. He was a mathematician and a philosopher, and he's the one who actually created the model known today as a scatter plot, scatter diagram. So I just want to give tribute and credit to where it's actually due. Not Herschel, but Descartes. What is the scatter plot or scatter diagram? It is a visual aid, a visual model to help simplify mathematical equations. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, scatter plots are just about anywhere in society now. We see them in airline industry, in automotive industry, in dietary industries. So just about anywhere we look, we will see some representation of a scatter plot or scatter diagram. So let's go through a little example. So it's a way to simplify or bring a visual aid to a mathematical equation. So let's look at this example in Excel. And before I go any further, I want to give credit to Leila Garare. She was born in Iran, and then she moved to Austria, where she is now. She's got over 2 million followers. She is a superb reference for Excel training. And like I said, wherever you are in your career, you need to understand and embrace Excel. If you don't know how to use Excel, then please look up Layla. There are others out there. Believe me, there are others out there. But I still remember when I went to college, and it was computer applications for business. And I still remember Microsoft Word and Excel were relatively new at that time. That shows a little bit about my age. But the books were this thick and they were so heavy, right? And there was so much information that was being put in all those books. But a lot of it is so outdated. I mean, come on, back then we were still on Windows 3.1.1, much different environment. So Leila Guerreri is a great reference to go to for enhancing your Excel knowledge. And again, I encourage you, if you want to succeed in business, if you want to succeed in Lean Six Sigma, you need to understand Excel. And once you branch away from Excel and you get into something called Minitab, which is even more powerful. For an example, an Excel will make a miscalculation 1 in every 10 million applications or formulas, where Minitab is closer to 1 in every 1 trillion applications. So it's a much more statistical software. That's Minitab versus Excel. But again, you need to have the foundation, and that's going to be in Excel. So Leila Guerreri is a great example. Now, getting back to the scatter plot, and whether it was Herschel or it was Descartes, it was Descartes. Okay, died 100 years before Herschel. So let's just settle that. But I love the visual aid that a scatter plot can give to a mathematical equation. So let's look at this example. Let's say that we have 46 warehouse associates that are in our kitting department. Now, these are the individuals, the associates that we're relying on to make sure that they're committing to that customer promise. Customer says, I want XYZ, I want it on Friday, and this is how I want you to ship it. So these are the individuals that are actually pulling those items from the shelf, getting them over to the next department so they can be packaged and shipped out to the customer. So let's say we have 46 of them. Now let's do a simple equation. So why do we want the visual aid to look at this? Why would this be so important? Well, let's look at this. So we have 46 associates. Let's say the average is $25 an hour. And then we actually have to add on the loaded cost, right? They're soft and loaded. So loaded means that we're putting the benefits and all the other perks that they might be associated to that associate in their payroll. So we're upwards of $250,000 per month for those 46 associates. So that's why it's important. This is our money, right? We want to make sure that we are streamlining our business. We're eliminating waste in every way that we can. And that's why we want to use a scatter plot, scatter diagram, because we're going to look at what's called our outliers, right? So let's take that information and we're just going to extrapolate it across. We're going to say, hey, what is my pick rate per month based on all these associates? And in this example, we have 2 outliers. Now let's look, okay, so there are 2 outliers, and these 2 outliers are actually high performers. So what happened here? So maybe there were a lot of smaller kits that they had to do, where they're pulling more washers, nuts, or bolts, or something simple, or they had a lot of case picks, right? Where you can grab about 100 items in one case. You don't have to actually have to count it out. So there's different areas, different reasons why we're going to have outliers. Now let's look at an example. Let's go ahead and change this number, and we're going to change it down to a much smaller number. It's like, well, wait a minute, what happened here? Okay, now, wait a minute, did we have somebody who was on their cell phone, somebody who was injured, somebody who maybe they missed a couple of days, whatever the case may be, right? So these are how we find our outliers in a process. So we can do a little more due diligence and research behind why are we missing our mark. Because remember, we want to know our labor to order ratio. We want to understand how much it's costing us to get every order in the back door and then back out through the shipping department. And if we have these outliers, we have to make sure we're dissecting them and researching to find out why, so we can better understand that number and control that number. And this is an example of a very controlled process, right? You have upper and lower spec limits, and this is a very controlled model. But this is what the scatter plot, scatter diagram is great for. It allows us to go ahead and simplify a mathematical equation. You have 46 associates. We have one whole month of picking that we're doing for our customer supply. And so the scatter plot allows us to take all those 46 associates, bucket them based on a simple report out of our ERP system, put a visual aid on it and say, hey, oh, here are my outliers. Here's the 3 people that I need to talk to this month. Here are the 3 people that I need to make sure that my leads are addressing. What are the highs and lows? What was the actual thing going on here? So we can make sure to monitor that, because you can only expect what you inspect. So as long as you're inspecting these outliers, it sends the message to the group that we are here to help you. We are here to support you. And if there's an outlier, if there's a lack in performance or a superb rise in performance, we want to make sure to give credit where credit is due, or give coaching where coaching is needed. That's the beauty of the scatter plot or scatter diagram. The 5th of the 7 quality tools in Lean Six Sigma. So I hope this helped. Again, this was another lesson. Have a wonderful day.